Okay, folks, we're going to do a paper media compatibility test here, okay? And we're going to be using different types of inks here on a couple different surfaces, okay? And they're different in terms of pattern and color, I guess type a little bit, but the thing is these are all photo paper or printable, okay? I'm going to try the holographic here, but I think the holographic starry is going to be the same type, just a different pattern, okay? But we might as well test them all when we're at it. You never know. Sometimes there are certain types of papers within a line where the different colors accept inks a little bit differently or a lot differently. One of the things I'm thinking about is the Star Dream. I had to think about it there. Star Dream, something like lapis lazuli, which is a dark blue, really takes ink quite differently from something like a Star Dream gold and silver, those metallic types, okay? But let's give these ones a try here. I have a feeling because these are all printable, they have a similar type of surface on them in that they can accept those printer types of inks, which is a very specific, I don't know, target kind of application. And I don't know enough about these types of papers to know if there's what specific type of printers these are for, okay? I don't know if they're all inkjet, you know, if they're laser. One of the things that I've noticed on a lot of these packages is they do mention inkjet or maybe dye-based inks or something like that. Okay, so it's important if you are using these types of papers to really read the instructions. They have it pretty detailed in their descriptions online, okay? They really don't want to be getting a bunch of people, you know, getting their surfaces and running it through the wrong type of paper and, you know, giving their, you know, their papers a bad review based on those compatibility issues. So they are pretty concise as far as I've seen, okay, but I'm not using those at all, okay? Printer types of applications, so I don't know. Okay, so that being said, I'm a paper crafter and like a card maker, and I use various types of inks on these, okay? I'm not using it in a printer, although that might be some kind of interesting thing to add in some text or something like that to print on a piece of these and to work a scene around it or whatever, card. But, okay, so I'm going to be using, trying dye-based inks. Let's do this, the VersaFine Clair last, okay? Dye-based black. Brilliance water-based pigment ink, okay? A StazOn solvent ink, black. And then the VersaFine Clair oil-based pigment ink, okay? Now here's my hypothesis with this, okay? This isn't so much instructional as it is experimental. I think these first three inks are going to adhere and dry on here just fine, okay? Now, okay, I didn't re-ink, you know, all of these pads here, so what we want to see is that, you know, if we can make an impression on here first, how it goes on, and if it dries and sets up fairly well, where it's not going to come off. I've tried oil-based pigment inks on photo paper before, just plain white photo paper though, so I just don't know how this is going to go. You know, let's give it a try here. Okay, so I'm going to use the same image here. It's going to be a bold image, you know, if we're going to do this test, we might as well test it, you know, with a very bold image here. And I'll do it with the Stampscapes Spruce Large. It's one of the more solid, bold images. Just because, I mean, if it works with a lot of ink, on a bold image, it's going to work on a smaller stamp, no problem. Sometimes you give you a small stamp, you know, maybe it doesn't work as well with the larger ones, but if you go big and it works, it'll be fine. Okay, so let's try these papers right here. All right, now the black against this pearl surface like that, look at that. I mean, that is really pearl-ish. It's one of the more pearl-looking surfaces that I've seen before. It might be because of the photo paper aspect of it, but I don't know. I've seen pearl on other types of papers like cardstocks before, but, you know, not on a printable paper. All right, now this one's different than these ones, okay? These ones are vinyl, okay? I don't think this is vinyl. It just says, I don't know, it says pearl paper. Let me see here. It just doesn't, it doesn't say. Okay, so I think it's just paper. But they call the vinyl papers paper too, I don't know. So I don't know. Okay, so here is, ooh, that is really sticky, okay? One of the things about these emulsion-coated photo papers is that it really sticks. Okay, I probably should have stamped down and lifted up faster, but that adhered just fine, okay? And this is, it's a little bit runny, okay, if I'm running my finger over it. But, I mean, you know, I didn't give it any time to dry it at all, okay? Now, from my experience in the past, it dries just fine, okay? On other types of papers, okay? So I think we're going to be okay with that. Okay, let's use the same pad on all of these papers. All right. Or inks at a time, okay? Just so I don't, you know, when I clean this off, I'm going to be using the next type of ink. Okay, this is the Starry vinyl holographic printable sticker paper, okay? God, that's a mouthful. Same type of feeling coming off of there, okay? Now this one, as I peeled off, it didn't give me quite as dark of a print. Okay, now, like I said, you know, I mean, these might look different, you know. I mean, this is just one impression. Let me go for another impression here. Let me go faster. Okay, that's a better impression. I held down a little bit too long. See how much darker that one is? So we just, you know, you have to get kind of, you know, familiarize yourself with these types of papers too. You know, I'm kind of printing it like I do on like cardstock or something like that. Okay, that's a much better print. Look at that. Look how dark that is on that pearl paper. It's really solid, okay? So I'm going to try to, you know, find that correct touch on these, you know, that, you know, I don't want the, you know, my results to be, you know, like user error, okay? So I'll try to do this correctly. Or ideally or whatever. All right, so, you know, no problem with this papers as far as the dye-based inks. And like I said, I've used these before where it dried, and it dried with no problem on with water-based media on these photo papers before, okay? Okay, so that is that. I'm convinced that there's no problem with dyes. Okay, now that doesn't surprise me because on a couple of the packs it says use, you know, dye-based inks, so we did, and it works just fine. Okay, let's try the Brilliance ink. Brilliance ink is the only one of its type, okay? I'm using it here because I've mentioned to people to get it, to use on things like foil, to blend colors on foils, okay? This is like a foil, but it's really, I don't know what it is. It's a vinyl holographic, okay? So it's different than a foil, like, you know, like a paper foil or something like that, okay? But I can blend Brilliance on there. So if people have bought this pad under, you know, through my recommendation, let's see how it does on here, okay? All right, so pretty wet and moist, okay? Let's see. Ooh, that is sticking pretty good. Boy, that gave me a really flat, even application of that. Look how that really stands out against that background. Okay, now pigment inks, if you know about anything about pigment inks, is that they are, they're much thicker than a dye-based ink. I think I got a better impression. It looks flatter and less, I don't know if that dye one looks shinier, but this is very flat and even. Boy, that really stands out kind of three-dimensionally against that background, doesn't it? Now that really grabbed and, I don't know, transferred, I guess we can say. All right. You see, that really sticks on there, so really kind of get your impression done and kind of move it around. I think that looks pretty good. That brilliance, I don't know. That brilliance is looking awfully good on there. I've been using my StazOn, okay, and the StazOn looked great, okay, no question about it. Let's try this on the pearl here, okay. Now that had a much easier release. Maybe it's because of the pearl surface on it, but it came off easier than the dye. Look how flat and beautiful it is. That's one of the great things about pigment inks, is that they are very thick inks. So sometimes when I want a really thick impression and solid, I'm going to brilliance. Things like foils and things like that too, because it's going to transfer a lot of ink onto the surface. Okay, let's pull out the big guns. Now I already know that StazOn is going to, StazOn will stick on glass, no problem. But let's do a little comparison between StazOn and, let's say, the brilliance, okay? I have a feeling that the StazOn is going to look probably, hypothesis, in between the brilliance and the dye in terms of maybe flatness and value and transfer, media transfer, okay? So let's go here. StazOn dries awfully fast. Oh, that came out really clean. It's a different black than brilliance. That looks awfully good. Let's let it dry a little bit, though. I did re-ink my StazOn. I'm being really careful to re-ink my StazOn pad before use, just because it is so fast drying. It dries in the pad, I'm sure, really quickly. This one's really sticking here. That is really black. See, that looks a little bit less, a couple percentages less, and the dye is even less. A lot of us have this one, though, so, I don't know. I wouldn't rule it out in terms of usage, but I don't know. I'm being surprised here. That StazOn is pretty black. I don't know what StazOn is. I don't know. What's a solvent ink pad? Is it, I don't know, is it like India ink, being suspended in solvent? Or I don't know. Something very, very dark. All right, so that was the StazOn like that. It just keeps getting darker and better, huh? Look at that dye-based one. All right. I don't know. That StazOn is looking awfully good. That, after I saw that brilliance, I thought, okay, I don't know if the StazOn is going to, kind of outperform. Now remember, these are tests on, these specific papers too. What they look like on an absorbent, matte cardstock, who knows? Okay, I got to get all that StazOn off of this one, because that's a very different type of ink. I don't want to be dipping, StazOn, residual StazOn into my, VersaFine Clair here. All right, VersaFine Clair, kind of the king of the hill in terms of the, everyone's crafter's kind of notion of, a very, very solid black impression quality. Okay, now with the the VersaFine Clair, I'm kind of being careful that I'm not sliding this around, if that would happen at all. I don't know. All right. That looks pretty good. Now, I don't know if I inked it up enough on there. Let me do another one. Okay, so I'm inking it up on the sides. I don't know why it didn't print out on the perimeter like that. Okay, I got a better impression. I didn't ink it up enough. All right, so that's awfully good. Let's see if it dries though, okay? I hope it does. I hope when I'm doing this type of thing, it's not like I'm trying to kind of count down like, oh, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope, for all of our sakes, that all of these work really well and are compatible, because that makes, it easier for, people to do certain types of applications, especially with probably things that they already have. That's looking awfully good too, isn't it? Okay, let's see. Let's try it on the pearl here. VersaFine Clair. Okay. Now I should really give these kind of, I don't know, like an overnight type of thing, or at least a couple hours for them to set up and dry. Much lighter on that one. Let's go again with the VersaFine Clair and see if that was user error here. Okay. Okay, here we go again. Adhering, holding a little bit longer for that transfer maybe to occur. Okay, this one's clearly coming out lighter. I really slathered that with quite a bit of ink. Okay. And my pad wasn't getting drier with each impression or something like that. There was well enough ink on there. Okay, so let's see this one. Okay, let's just start in reverse order in terms of the value, okay? That really surprised me. How is VersaFine Clair lighter than a dye-based ink? I don't know. But see these two right here, I really spent time, with that one right there, getting kind of a longer impression. Okay, now let's see these right here. Okay, now that really feels dry to me. It is. That's the dye-based ink. I mean, it's, I stamped it first too. Okay, this one right here. This is coming off a little bit. Brilliant. Okay, now pigment inks are surface oriented, so that pigment is on the surface there. You know what I mean? It's not soaking in like a dye-based ink would, which is thinner, okay? Let's test this. Stays on. Stays on is completely dry and adhered. Okay, that is not coming off, okay? Now, this isn't really going to be fair on this one. Let me give this one a little bit more of a, chance to just kind of set up right here. But let's go back over to these ones right here. I have a feeling these ones are going to be, pretty much the same. Just this, they're the same exact thing, but this one just has this pattern on here, different pattern. Okay, so the dye-based ink is the lightest. The brilliance gets a little bit darker. Stays on is the darkest. It might be just a few percentage points, but noticeable, right? And so this is like 2 or 3, percentage points darker than the brilliance. Okay, this is stays on right here, remember. And this right here is the VersaFine Clair. The VersaFine Clair and the stays on, I would say that VersaFine Clair is in between the brilliance and the stays on right here. I should mark all these for you guys, but there's only 4 inks right here. Okay, so let me do a little test here. The VersaFine Clair. The VersaFine Clair, believe it or not, has adhered and is not smearing. And that is just after like a couple minutes. This is what shocks me. Again, I've used VersaFine Clair before on a glossy photo paper. Whatever's on this type of sticker paper, I mean, obviously, it's a little bit different than white glossy photo paper. You know what I mean? The Epsons, the Canons, etc. Okay, let's test it on this one right here. I don't know. I still don't trust it, though. Okay. This one right here is not so much smearing on the pearl, but as I wipe in there, do you see how that's a little bit lighter right there? It's not smearing it out like this, okay? It's too dry for that, and it's not adhering to that. But as I do this, see, it's rubbing off the pearl. See, it's on my fingers like that, okay? But on these ones, let's see. These two right here, that is a great impression. It's stuck. On this one right here, it's not so kind of fragile that maybe if you give this overnight to dry, it might be set up okay. All right. I think all of these right here, dyes, brilliance, stays on, versifying clear, oil-based pigment ink, I have a feeling that any of those could give you some decent results, okay? It's just a matter of, you know, how much more is this? This is probably like a couple percentages darker than this one. From here, it's probably like 7-8 percentage points darker. I think, I don't know. What does it look like to you? On here, like that dye-based ink isn't bad. Don't look at that one right there, okay? But all of these look pretty good. You know what I mean? And they all seem to be really compatible with this surface. Okay, this is really shocking to me. I don't know, you know, because not all surfaces that we're typically using in card making are compatible with such a wide range of different types. Man, look at that holographic right there. That is so insane. But look how three-dimensional they look and how much they stand out against the background. And again, this is the pearl right here. The pearl, who would have thought this pearlescent, you know, kind of super reflective, iridescent, shimmery type of paper would kind of look a little bit boring by contrast, but it really does. Not that we want, you know, super loud backgrounds all the time. This one right here, you can add color to too. Where these ones, I don't think it'll really stand out against the background. But as far as opacity goes too, with these ones right here, like the dye-based ink, I was surprised the dye-based black, it's pretty much holding its own. You know, I don't get too much kind of transparency and that color kind of showing through the black impression there, okay? So even with the lightest impression right there, you know, it's standing up against the background, but these ones right here, so much more effective. All right, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something else that might not work on here because we've seen three things, you know, three pretty different types of inks working just fine on here. With the fourth one, you know, totally acceptable, but lighter by contrast. And I think all of you have in card making, well, I don't know if all of you, but, you know, a stays on, they might not be, I think all of your versifying clairs, you know, everyone's using pretty well, but the stays on is the one, stays on, you know, it'll stamp on anything, but, you know, a lot of you don't have it, or you've had one sitting around that you haven't used in 15 years or something like that. If it's these types of papers right here, and hey, there's different types of brands out there too. There's rainbow holographic papers, and then there's starry papers that aren't necessarily printer capable, but they look exactly the same, okay? So just keep that in mind. Do a little test print on your papers with these, you know, with whatever stamp you have, and just test it out to, you know, to make sure that you're just using the right media surface compatibility types of considerations when you're doing these types of things. So You know, a rainbow holographic starry on, you know, cardstock might be different. And that's what I've found. So test it out with your Claire especially, you know, to see if it'll adhere, dry, and stick to that type of surface especially, okay? So anyways, I don't know. That was a interesting test for me, and I hope it came in handy for you as well. I think I'm going to keep these as a reference here for me in the future, so I don't forget. All right, so thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you like these videos, please press the like button. I really appreciate it. Okay, thanks for watching.